Welcome to Albuquerque Real Estate Talk with Tigo and Tracy Venturi with Venturi Group of Real Broker in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Episode 451, Tracy,
Oh my gosh.
Midsummer.
451.
451, Midsummer 2023.
It's not midsummer. Summer just started.
Well, it feels like I guess
warm.
It's warm.
Yeah.
It finally got warm this week. You know, it's been a really cool, relatively mild spring.
Sure has. And here it is in the high 90s, and I'm wearing a jacket.
I know. You're wearing a jacket.
Because the air conditioning drives me crazy.
Yeah,
so I like it warm,
I think
obviously.
a lot of people can relate to that.
Yeah. So Tigo, we're over 9 years on the Kiva here, 1600 AM. We appreciate all you listeners so much, and we love to hear from you and answer your questions and help you with all your real estate needs. So thank you so much for being a part of this journey.
Tracy, we're honored to do this. We're on 1600 AM, KIVA radio. We're on YouTube, and we also put it out on Facebook as well. So if anybody wants to tune in and see what we're yammering about, I guess, in real estate. But, you know, this is what we do. We talk about real estate. We love real estate. It's what we do all the time. So Tracy, I did a presentation for a group of realtors and some home builders just talking about the Albuquerque market. And I wanted to share that with our listeners. There was a big vote this week regarding housing in Albuquerque. Wanted to hit on that.
Yep.
We have some homes of the week.
Open houses.
I was playing with ChatGPT and AI, and I wanted to show you what I found, what it told me about Albuquerque. I thought it was kind of interesting. So I want to get to that. So, okay.
All sorts of fun things. So where to start?
Let's start with ADUs.
Okay. Accessory dwelling units, yes. ADU.
Or casitas, or granny flats, or tiny houses. A lot of different terms for kind of the same idea.
But for the city council, it's called ADU.
Yeah.
Accessory dwelling unit.
Right. And the idea is you can, it allows for an additional dwelling on a piece of property that's zoned for residential, one housing unit per lot.
So we've talked about this on the show, so listeners are probably familiar, but the city council finally took that to the vote this week.
They did, and it passed.
Most of it passed.
A lot of amendments. It went until midnight, and there were, I don't remember how many, but there were a bunch of amendments to what the planning and zoning
proposed.
Proposed. And you know, it was mainly just tweaks and stuff. The one thing that is out, and I'm going to caveat all of this with the way I understand it is one.
As in, it could be different than what you're saying.
I was reading through it and trying to get clarity on it, and of course, reading those ordinances is not exactly always plain English. So, but that's my understanding. So there were a couple components to it. One was that it would allow for duplex building on R1 zone properties. Generally R1 you can't. Usually it's R2 to be able to build a duplex. Well, that is out, is my understanding. That one did get amended out of it. The other portion of it was some changes to allow for motel hotels to be converted into housing units. And so that's another one.
That did get passed or did not?
That is my understanding. But of course, the big one is the casita.
Right. And I think the big one too, though, is the motel hotel being able to be converted into residential property, right?
It definitely could be.
Because that could be a lot of units for some old hotels out there, motels along, different roadways that could be converted into townhomes or condos?
Probably have to condoize. Yeah, you couldn't do townhomes. No, because townhome you need
the land. Yeah. It just depends how it all gets subdivided up and how the property lays out. But most likely condos for sale for people to have ownership. So that would be great. That could be a lot of residential units versus somebody wanting to put a guest house on their property, which costs money.
Yes, it does. And so that was one of the things that a lot of us have been kind of kicking around and thinking about this. Okay, what's the reality of this? Is it going to solve the housing crisis? No. Of course not. It's not. It's not going to be enough housing units. And let me say this was, pretty controversial.
Oh yeah.
It was a split vote. It was a 5-4 vote with the city council, and so it was, definitely.
It was not overwhelming.
Not overwhelming.
Vote. Yeah.
Well, and because you're changing. Somebody buys a property, a home, and it's R1 zone, and everybody around you is R1 zone, and your understanding is that's what it's zoned for, and there's certain things that you can't do and other people can't do, next
with
to you.
it, right?
Well, they've changed that. They made a change to that. So that's very controversial.
So let me ask you a question, Tigo. I don't know if we know the answer to this, but it can be rented out for money, right? Not just a family member.
My understanding is yes, correct. So
if you build something, a separate living unit, casita, guest house, granny flat.
let me just give some people some definitions so they kind of understand what we're talking about here. So we have, you have a home, it's R1 zone, you have a big backyard, large lot. One of our rental properties in Ridgecrest, it would be ideal for something like this because it has a large backyard. I can hear all the people in Ridgecrest going, no, but
not in my backyard.
not in my backyard. Yeah, NIMBY. I'm just saying, that's an example of it.
Right.
Where, however, that it's limited in footprint, and 750 square feet is maximum size. So it's small. It's like a studio.
No, well, you could probably do a one bedroom at least.
You probably do a 1 bedroom 750, I guess. So that's true.
Yeah.
Actually, that's pretty good size.
I don't know when you walk through IKEA and they've got a 496 studio, you could certainly see it. But anyway.
Yeah, now I'm imagining it. You're right. 750 square feet is be a pretty
at least
pretty good
one
size,
bedroom, maybe two.
Pretty good size home.
I know there's apartments that are that size. Anyway, you could put it there.
The other caveat, though, is that it can only take up I hope I have this definition right, so don't hold me to it. But
fix it for us if you know the right answer here.
25% of the available land, not the entire property. So the available
of the yard
space can house that housing unit, and there's setbacks and there's other stuff, and there's a bunch of different requirements, but it's there.
I have one other question that I'm pretty sure we don't know the answer to. How does this relate if there's a homeowners association and CC&Rs, covenants and restrictions already in place for like a community? Let's say like Vista del Norte, right? Off Osuna, just west of I-25. We know that there's covenants. We know there's a homeowners association.
I'd like to get a lawyer's opinion on this and just verify. But I will say my understanding is that CC&Rs, covenants, conditions, and restrictions, basically sit over the top of zoning. So you think about our neighborhood, Tracy, where we live, and we have, the zoning for the community, for the county, like we're in Sandoval County. But then again, we have neighborhood restrictions specific to our neighborhood that are recorded with the county. So we can't do certain things in our neighborhood. So my understanding is
bad example though, because we're not in the city of Albuquerque.
I know we're not. I know. But I'm just saying. And so, this is my gut feeling on it is, if that was the case where certain neighborhood associations couldn't still keep their restrictions, this would have been a much bigger issue, and there would have been a lot more people fighting against it.
Yeah.
Think about, let's say, high desert, for example, right?
Okay. Okay. So let's transition, Tigo.
Yeah.
Last week, you were the special guest for the Home Builders Association.
Special, air quote, special.
You were a special guest.
Yeah.
And you did an amazing presentation, I must say. And it was encompassing a lot of different areas of real estate, not just residential real estate, but you went over rents and historical numbers and the whole national numbers and things. But one thing in particular, let's talk about it. Can you tell us about the home price appreciation?
And I just want to mention, people, if you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook, I do have a recording here where I'm looking at these charts. But if you're just listening, I'm going to describe it as well. But I do want to point that out. And so what I was trying to do is paint a picture of where we are in the housing market in Albuquerque right now, as we sit in June 2023. And the first thing I brought up was the 4-quarter price appreciation from FHFA, which is one of the better sources of housing prices and price change in the country.
So the map is showing the United States really pretty color coded, right?
Yeah.
So it's a heat map.
Yes. So it's a heat map, and what we're looking at is a quarter one price change from quarter one 2022 to quarter one 2023.
Okay.
And what we find on the map is that there's most of the Western United States have seen some pullback in prices and some price declines. Not
the far west.
The far west, right?
We're southwest.
Yeah, but the West, couple other pockets. So the pockets that have seen the biggest declines in home prices are the ones we've been talking about: Austin, Boise. So Austin, they're saying had a 8%, 8.5% price decline. Boise had a 6% price decline. There's different markets like Sacramento, 7%, and
the whole Silicon Valley, San Francisco,
Northern California. It's just
and Seattle.
It's a different world. Seattle, those had big declines, but like Maricopa County, Phoenix, Mesa, Chandler, MSA, down, what is that? 1.7%.
1.7, not significant.
Not
based on what you think, based on the news.
Well, based on what some people were predicting,
right?
Because prices had gone up so much in that Phoenix market.
So I'm only seeing one on the map in the far east, Higo. It looks like it must be DC, Virginia.
Yeah, Fredericksburg. Yep. And then what's that other market there?
Washington,
DC.
Arlington.
Yeah, that whole DC area.
So that's interesting. That's the only place east of Colorado, maybe. There's a slight little area that it looks like in Florida, but some areas of Florida look like the price
all of Florida.
increase is very high.
Yeah, Miami is actually one of the hottest markets in the country year over year.
Right there, is that?
I think you're seeing things.
It says down 1.2 Tampa, I think.
Nope,
up 5.6.
Nope. So the gist of this is that, yes, the market's been wild the last 3 years, and a lot of us in the industry are calling it the unicorn years in real estate. 20, half of 2020, half of 20, 21, and half of 22 were kind of like the unicorn years. It just kind of wild. The takeaway is that Albuquerque has held up pretty well.
Right.
We haven't really had the price declines, and what they're saying right now, 6% year over years for our Albuquerque.
6% increase in house prices.
Yep.
Year over year in Albuquerque.
Yeah. So that's the first chart.
Okay.
And then the other one is, if we really narrow down into Albuquerque and look at the year over year price changes, again, 2023, 6%, 2022, 17.6%. And this is, again, comparing quarter one to quarter one,
of each year.
So year over year. 22, or in 21, which is really 20 because it's the first quarter. Anyway, 13%. And then 20, 17%, 19, 4%, 18, 5%, 17, 5%, 16, 1.4%. So that was, kind of a flat year.
And 2020, you said 17, it's 7.7, but.
Oh, did I? Okay. Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just to correct it.
We had those 2 years, right? Basically 20 and 21, where we were having this double digit price appreciation, which is unhealthy. So now we're back to 6%, which is healthy, but it does seem like that's probably going to tick up again based on what I'm seeing now. I mean, this is for first quarter. We're almost through second quarter. So I think that's going to go up a little bit. We could see double digit again, but prices, in Albuquerque have held up pretty well compared to a lot of the country, especially in the West.
Really, all we've seen is a slowdown in the amount of appreciation.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. It's exactly right.
Next chart.
I'm comparing the United States to Albuquerque. And what we find is that after the housing, whatever you want to call it, the Great Recession, the housing crisis, whatever you want to call it, the big bubble, the United States home prices went down more than in Albuquerque. Things stabilized somewhere in 2012 and prices started going up. The thing that's interesting, around the country, home prices went up more. Albuquerque has stayed pretty steady up until, the last few years. And what's happened since we had that spike in interest rates mid-year last year, or early I guess it was
mid-year.
Kind of starting April, May, June is really when it kicked in last year, though the spike in mortgage rates. Home prices definitely pulled back, and that's across the country. Albuquerque saw a pullback. I've been talking about that all year last year, but now we're home prices are going back up again come May. So the year over year, we're still over.
So the next chart, just to bring clarity, rent appreciation year over year. For those of you who can see the chart, it looks like, oh my gosh, rent prices went way up and then they dropped again.
Yes.
But no,
that's not
what that chart says.
We're looking at the percentage of year over year percentage of change in what's happened. If you are looking at the chart, you can see it, but you can see from 2012 all the way through till kind of 2019, even into early 2020.
Rent
prices were very stable, very flat in Albuquerque. But what happened, if you look at October 2021, home rent prices appreciation peaked at 19% in October, November, December of 2021. And since then, the rate of appreciation has been coming down. Right now, we're only at about 7% or so.
So
versus from the 2012 through today,
appreciation
it was in the 2 to 3% per year.
Yeah. So for just to put it to numbers, it would say like on a rent of $1,000, they went up 20%.
Yeah.
2 years ago, and now they're only going up
about 6-7%.
6 to 7% a year.
And so there's projections out there. Apartments.com did a study. They do a really good work on looking at the different apartment complexes in the city and surveying them and seeing what's going on. And they do predict that rent prices are either going to go flat or maybe even pull back a little bit later this year. But we'll see. I don't think they're going to pull back.
I think that they are going to steady out. I don't see a lot more upside in rent. I just don't think for our economy that people can afford another rent increase. But we'll see.
Well, that's just it. I mean, affordability isn't the question, right? It's, what will the market bear?
Right. So let's move on. List of apartments. So this is a really interesting conversation.
Yeah. And so, it goes along with what we were just saying and why apartments.com feels like rent prices are going to flatten here this year is there's 40 projects under construction in Albuquerque right now, representing 5,328 new apartments. What we call doors.
40 different apartment units are being constructed right now for over 5,300 people, families, whatever, to move into.
And about 63% of those are what we call market rate, basically, top of the market. and another 37% are considered affordable housing. So there is some good news on that
availability
coming.
Yeah,
so
there are
definitely some apartment in, as we call it, doors in the pipeline. Let's see. The other thing I started to get into is this idea of the number of homes on the market. People keep asking me, it's like, okay, demand is down. People aren't buying homes as much. There's less home sales. How come prices keep going up? Well, it's simple supply and demand, right? We just don't have enough homes on the market. And if you're looking at this chart, you can see, how many homes we have on the market this year versus 21 and 22. It's about the same. Those are very low,
similar.
Very low supply, very low inventory, very few listings, whatever you want to call it.
Homes for sale.
Homes for sale. That's the real term. I know we use all our real estate lingo. But if you compare it to years like 2018, 2019, it's substantially lower. So we just don't have as many homes. And then if you look at the number of homes on the market by construction type, we find that there's a good portion, like one of the highest we've seen of those properties are new construction.
Yep. And so just to deviate from that, new construction. So obviously we work with new home builders. We can help people buy new construction from all the builders around. And this week, I'm going way off track. This week, Tigo and I went to visit the Abrazo community called Las Residencias in Rio Rancho, and it was really nice. The house floor plans were great. The lots were big. There was good space between the homes, and they have a few houses done right now that are available, and they have a few pieces of land, lots still available where you could choose that lot and the floor plan and have it built. And Abrazo just builds a beautiful home. So that one,
Abrazo is one of our local home builders, homegrown company that, they build a great home. And so that neighborhood's Rio Rancho, just at what I call the bottom of the hill at
Sunt. It's just north of Target, right off 528. So it's really convenient, especially if you're going north to go wherever you need to commute to, or south, because it's pretty quick, but it's close to restaurants and shops and everything. So that's a good one if you're interested.
And that was not an advertisement for Abrazo Homes, although it kind of sounded like it. There's a lot of great builders in town,
anyway, it's great. Just wanted to remind people that we can help you with new construction because there are a lot to choose from. And
well, let's deviate a little bit since we're talking about this market update. I get a good portion of that had to do with new construction and talking with the builders and what they're doing and what they've got going on in the market. And so what you were there, I was there at this presentation talking with the home builders. What were some of your takeaways from the home builders? What did you hear?
I thought it was great. Lots of different parts of town where new homes are being constructed that are more production built, not custom, buy a lot and hire your custom builder, but more production. A lot of really great neighborhoods in the Los Lunas area, west side of Albuquerque. There's some infill in the Northeast Heights. I know a townhome project up there that's pretty awesome. And then, of course, Rio Rancho. But the builders are building energy efficient homes, so your utility bills will be less. You get your mechanicals are new, so probably for 15 years you don't have to worry about major expenses. They're offering incentives right now, obviously towards closing costs. Some of them different incentives to help buyers get into their homes. Some of them are offering special interest rates. So it's really. I was encouraged by that. The other thing that I was encouraged by was the build time. So not every one of those builders allows you to pick a lot in their neighborhood and then pick the floor plan and go to their design center. Some of the builders like D.R. Horton, they just build the house and then they put it for sale, but a little bit before it's complete. They don't let you choose what you want.
Well, and they do that to keep it affordable, keep the value, as best as they can.
Right. And they know the design trends. They're beautiful homes, right? People walk in and go, wow, this is beautiful. But the build time has gotten a lot better. During the time of COVID, when they couldn't get supplies and they wouldn't have a toilet to put in a house for 6 months or something, and people were waiting for their new homes to be built for a year or 15 months or longer sometimes because of all the construction delays. They're back to being able to build a house in a decent amount of time. So that was encouraging.
So and it was. And I think the builders have adjusted just like everybody has, through the pandemic on, how we do things and how we do business and so on. Couple takeaways that I had from this. Again, we're talking about, there was a panel with the Home Builders Association of Central New Mexico talking to realtors about the home building process and so on. Mostly production builders.
The two builders that were on the panel, Amherst and Homes, which is AMREP, and also Twilight Homes.
But Westway.
Westway. There were also other builders in the audience. Westway. And then
but Twilight's another good local
we
builder.
had Pulte in the audience. We had
D.R. Horton, Westway.
D.R. Horton and Richmond America.
You're going to forget somebody I know and feel bad.
Richmond America, which is fairly new in our market, and they have houses ready to buy now. For a long time, they were building houses, but they weren't ready yet. So.
Well, and the thing with Pulte, it's Del Webb, and it's also Centex.
Right. And then we had, of course, Abrazo was represented as well.
Yeah.
So.
Couple takeaways I had. One, the builders are having huge problems with labor in construction.
Finding enough labor.
If you're listening and you know somebody that's, wanting to get into a trade, the trades are hungry for young people that want to work. And I don't know if you're supposed to say young people, but basically it is the case. The trades are having issues, and there's a lot of things going on to help that and get more people in the trades.
Well, I
but
think
that's a
CNM
challenge.
has some programs,
It
and they're
does.
really encouraging people to get into trades. So what else?
Yeah, so that was one. The other was that if you're expecting, new construction costs and price of homes to come down, don't. It's not happening. We're probably the lowest it's going to be.
Yeah.
Because there's just so many things that are putting pressure on new construction prices, and some of them we haven't even seen yet.
Although we did get a little glimmer of good news, there's a few builders that are pricing some houses and building some houses just under 300 now, in the 265 to 285 range. You're going to get new construction, high quality, but it's going to be a smaller house. But at least there's some out there, which we haven't been able to say for a long time.
Yeah.
So
very limited, but they are out there.
Yeah, covered a lot.
So Tracy, I want to just go back to my couple things I wanted to highlight what's going on in Albuquerque in the real estate market. So what I have on the screen right now, and what we're talking about, is the number of homes sold annually in Albuquerque. And so what we see, if we go back to 2013, 2014, 2015, about 10,000 homes or so a year changing hands. Not a whole lot, right? But I mean,
it's a lot. But that's what it was.
Yeah, that's what it was. And then it kept going up and up and up every year. More homes selling, more homes selling, more homes selling, and then we peaked in mid 2021 at about 15,000 homes selling.
Right.
And now we're back down to about 10,000. And so what's happened is, you could say that housing is in a recession if you're talking about it from a number of sales happening standpoint. It is. We've come down quite a bit. It's 25% less home selling, in the last year versus the year before.
Right. However, it's not really a recession. It's a supply problem, right?
Well,
we have buyers out there.
Yeah, I don't know, however you want to call it whatever the definition of recession is for housing. But when we talk about that, it's not prices, it's just the number of moves, the number of people, buying and moving. It's just not as often.
Yep.
And Tracy, you and I obviously deal with this all the time and see that. And then the big thing is that people aren't moving as often. They're just staying put.
Right.
And there's a lot of, conversations around that. And obviously the big one is, those people with those 3.5% mortgages aren't real excited to go sell and get a 7% mortgage.
Right.
So, okay. And I'm not going to go into this much more, but, the number of people listing just has continued to decline. And we say, okay, well, why don't we just build more? Why don't we build more? Build them as fast as we can. And back to the home builders thing is, they are, but there's a lot of challenges there.
Right.
And the number of, building permits being pulled is just, it's not like spiking up like you think it was, because the demand is so high. And there's a lot of challenges for developing. So with all of that, Tracy.
With all of that, let's switch gears.
Wait, I just want to hit on one thing, is affordability. So that's really kind of what's going on. We've got affordability challenges from rent going up, from home costs going up, and people getting priced out in both cases. And it's not great. However, Albuquerque is better than most other markets that we compare ourselves to.
Right.
Phoenix, Tucson,
for sure.
Even El Paso, even though housing is cheaper in El Paso, the incomes, the wages are much lower in El Paso than our market. So affordability is not as better. Great. So that's the one thing we do having going for us compared to other markets, is we actually are more affordable, believe it or not. And some people may be shocked to hear that, but it is true.
Totally. So I really need to just talk about open houses.
I know
real
you
quick.
do. I know you got some properties you want to share. And actually, I'm going to pull these up on the screen again if you're watching
4625
online, you can see them here.
4625 Thistle Northwest. So
Yeah.
this is a great location by the Mariposa Basin Park in Taylor Ranch. It's on the market right now, $327,000. Open houses on Saturday and Sunday. We have the home on Lucille Place Northwest, which is next to the river on just over an acre for $699,900. No open house, but you can call us and we can definitely make an appointment to view that home.
Okay.
New listing at 9605 Carson Mesa Drive Northwest, 1,600 square feet, $319,900. And then we still have 2020 Duke City in Volterra, 2,845 square feet, 5-bedroom home for $497,500. And we have some coming soon. 7101 Marseille Place in Quintessence. It'll be open this weekend. It's $595,000 for 2,700 square feet in the Northeast Heights near Paseo and Eubank in Quintessence for $595,000. So if you want to know more about any of those, give us a call. We would be happy to give you more information or make appointments to show those houses.
Yeah, or any houses.
Or any others, of
Any
course.
others,
Yeah,
yeah.
so it's always great to come here and keep everyone up to date. But we'd love to hear from you. If you have some questions or thoughts about real estate, give us a ring at 448-8888, Venturi Realty Group of Real Broker.